There she is.
What the hell is that?
Bro, how horrifying was this film?
I ain't sleeping tonight,
Right.
or for the rest of the week.
I'm keeping the lights on, I swear to God.
The plot of the movie is an FBI agent trying to solve a cold case about a serial killer called LongLegs, and the killer, LongLegs, has left behind these Zodiac-like codes that no one can decrypt. Micah Monroe comes along as a somewhat clairvoyant FBI agent, and she's able to go through all the cold cases and decrypt the notes that he's left behind for her. And throughout the movie, we see that there's something under the surface that she may know more than she's leading on, or she may be more connected to LongLegs than she's leading on. And throughout the movie, it divulges how she's related to LongLegs and where along her timeline in life that she became connected in his story. Straight off the bat, this movie is unnerving. Almost to the point where the opening credits of this movie, where it's sort of rolling through the different production companies that were involved in making this movie, that goes for eerily long. And in the background, as these different production companies are flashing on screen, it's just this sort of like cassette tape running in the background, like just running on a loop or something. And that right there just sets the tone for this movie. Now, going in, if you know anything about LongLegs, you knew that Nicolas Cage was in this movie. He's LongLegs, and that he puts on a performance of a lifetime, and a very Nicolas Cagean performance. If you know Nicolas Cage, you know exactly what we're talking about. Think The Bees.
No, not the bees! Not the bees!
In this review, we're not going to spoil anything about this movie because you need to go and see this movie fresh. You don't want to have anything spoiled for you. You just want to go in blank canvas so that this movie can really use its anticipation on you to just get this feeling out of you that is not comfortable at all, which throughout this movie you will feel. Now, the opening scene, we always talk about at NCART because we like to see what tone the movie's going to set for us. This movie set the perfect tone in this opening scene. Nicolas Cage is introduced in the scene, and it is great, and it just sets you on a path of this movie for the most uncomfortable, eerie 2 hours you're ever going to feel. And that's exactly what this movie was going for, and it's exactly what you got.
If I can relate this to anything, this is a Smile 2.0. You are on edge. You are so almost claustrophobic in a way. There's so much pressure being built up in the cinema, and when you watch this, it feels the exact same. There's just so many avenues they could go down. They really make you think in the opening scene. Also, there is so many like subliminal messages in here. I think I'm still seeing them now looking at the camera. Like I can see them flashing at me. That's the type of eeriness that this movie has. And also on top of that, the music. The music is so loud. Like if you see this in the cinema, which you should, by the way, like I don't know if you guys know what tinnitus is, but it's ringing in the ear. I still have that now. That's how immersed I was into this film. It just constantly kept you on edge through music, through the subliminal messaging, and through the acting of Nicolas Cage.
One thing in NCART that we always like to mention, which is a reoccurring theme and has predominantly been a reoccurring theme in the last 2 years, is how demonic some things in Hollywood movies seem these days. And this movie is literally the king of that. In certain movies, you sort of see flashes of what we think is like a demonic thing, and you think like, oh, that was a bit odd. This movie just is. And the whole movie feels that way, like you're being brainwashed watching it. And the anxiety you feel from this movie, and not even just yourself, but in the cinema. We went to the movies, and it's been really uncommon lately to see a cinema full, or even half full. And yet this movie was absolutely packed with people who were on the edge of their seats with anticipation, and throughout the movie you could feel the anxiety throughout the whole cinema. And there was so much nervous laughter. There'd be like a scene would happen, and it would just be this sort of nervous murmur or laughter in the movies, because it's like everyone was feeling the same thing of this whole like, what are we watching right now? It's so eerie. One of the things that this movie did really, really well was, how can you have the most jump scare or the biggest jump scare, like the anticipation, where this movie used the filming style, and this is props to the director, where the character was always right in the center of the film, and you're always sort of scanning behind her or the character or the detective or whatever to see what's in that corner. What's in this corner? Is there something in the window? Is there something in the doorway? Is there... And that's exactly sort of what you want in these movies, because I'll be honest, half the time the jump scare didn't come, which was sort of good, because then I guess once the jump scare comes, then you can relax because you know like the scene's over. Whereas this movie kept you on that feeling the whole time, like, when's it coming? When's it coming? When's it coming? And it never comes in a way.
Because they did give you that in the first like chunk of the film. It was like jump scare after jump scare, kind of, and then kind of plateaus a little bit, and then does it give you it at the end? I don't want to spoil it for you, but it does kind of go crazy. And speaking about scanning the entire scene or whatever you're looking in the background, you do it the entire movie, and at the point when you least expect it, there is something that happens. So do watch behind the scenes all the time. Keep occupied.
Yeah,
That's
they
one
definitely,
thing.
the director definitely used like the darkness of the rooms and the corners. Like everything was dimly lit in this movie. That's another great thing. The lighting, it's your typical what you see in movies that are trying to create like that feeling of a room or a house being incredibly dark, where it's like for some reason she only has one light on in her whole goddamn house and she's walking around in the dark like a goddamn psychopath. That sort of built up so much anticipation. I mean, even now, like we've just seen the movie and we probably seem a bit hyper right now because we're just your fight or flight gets activated in this movie, 100%.
One good thing that Osgood Perkins did was every time you look at a scene, it seems to me that the camera is either following the character or behind the character. So you never get this angle where you can see the entirety of the place, the property, wherever the scene happens to be at. And that's, I think, builds that anticipation even more. Like, I can't tell you, the first thing I said to Geordie in this film was, I hate this camera angle. That was my first thing, just because it was initially opened up also on like a film tape. So if you see film, like it's those little squares that you see, that's exactly how it was opened. And that was a very interesting concept even to me, watching so many films like we do, and you've never really seen that type of, layout, aspect ratio that you see. This all adds to this eeriness. It adds to what we're saying. I really recommend you guys go see this if you are horror fans.
Since the influx of scary movies has become so popular, where it seems like everyone's trying to do a scary movie now, these movies almost look too clean or too good or too beautifully shot. Like, we referenced this in The Strangers, where in the original Strangers, it sort of had this grainy look of the camera, the lighting wasn't perfect, they weren't in this perfectly lit house, it was quite dull colours. And in the new The Strangers, it kind of felt like it was too clean, it was just all product placement, or it was a way to just show off, like everything looked clean. Whereas in this movie, it almost felt like an indie film, the way it was filmed and the way that the cameras were filmed, where it was following the characters, or it was set just to show the room, and it didn't look too polished or too clean, and that adds to the whole feeling that there's something going on or something's about to happen. And that's one thing that this movie did really well, which, comes from the fact that it wasn't a big budget scary movie. It was just sort of I guess you could consider it an indie film.
And I have to mention this as well. The acting was phenomenal in this film. And you have to give your props to Nick Cage. We think Gary Oldman might be the greatest actor of all time. Nick Cage is up there. If you can go and change your character to be almost like a Mrs. Doubtfire, but a sadistic Mrs. Doubtfire, you're doing something right. And he was able to bring such screen presence that every time he was on there, even the clips that didn't make sense, even the flashes, all of that added up to his character. And he was just the weirdest dude you don't want to meet. If you come across anyone who looks like him, run in every direction you can.
I'm swinging on him straight away.
Immediately, he's getting the uppercut Khabib. That's what he's getting. Shoot for the double, and he's getting the jab.
Like, half the time when he popped up on screen, I was trying to swing, because you were just the look that he had. Like, had prosthetics on his face, which did look somewhat a little bit ridiculous and was never really explained, but you want to swing on this guy as soon as you see him. Like, seriously.
It is the most eeriest. I know I keep saying this. It just puts you on edge looking at him, which is also a weird thing. That's the good thing about films. If they don't explain it, you can come up with your own conclusion, and it's probably going to be a worse one.
The other actors worth noting in this movie as well, obviously Micah Monroe. She plays Lee Harker, obviously the main character, the FBI agent, who's been through something, who also knows more that she's leading on, but doesn't show everything on the surface as well. Her ability also in the movie to make you feel uneasy when you're looking at the movie through her eyes was palpable, and you could just feel it oozing off the screen. Another actress in the movie, Alicia Witt, she deserves props as well, because her acting in this, she just immediately made you feel like something's going on, or maybe that something's happened to her, and you want to figure out what it was. And she's just unnerving as well throughout the whole movie. And also Blair Underwood, who is the lead FBI agent, and he had this ability to sort of be this guy who thought there's got to be plausible details or a plausible reason why this is happening, and just
he was thinking it just can't be the boogeyman giving you all the answers to these questions. You have to have some type of analytical analysis for this, otherwise it doesn't make sense. And that's exactly, I think, how FBI agents work, is that they work off the facts, they don't work off superstition. And that Lee was pushing a superstitious side of like, I'm a clairvoyant, I feel like the killer might be in this house, I need to go this way. He was like, no, do you have evidence for that? Well, then we can't go that way, or we can go that way. He was so good at being a lead detective. This is like the normal base detective that you all know. There's nothing really under the surface with him.
A lot of this movie was great, and a lot of this movie worked, and it is one of the best sort of thriller on the edge of your seat sort of movies you're going to see. But towards the end of the movie, it does sort of go away a little bit from this tension that's been building up all the way, and it does sort of enter into the realm of supernatural. And I feel like in a way that sort of was a little bit of a letdown. I feel like they built so much momentum at the beginning of this movie because you barely see Longlegs at all, and you don't really know like what his motives are or what's happening or even how he's doing what he's doing. And then they didn't really know how to keep that mystery of like how is he doing this or why is he doing this going in a way. And then it just turns sort of down a the route that we're sort of used to in these supernatural movies where we see a lot of. In a way, that sort of was a little bit of a letdown because it feels like the movie, when it ended, a bit of an anticlimax compared to like the movie. The ending is obviously climactic, but it wasn't what I was expecting in a way of. It built up so much anticipation about the Longlegs and everything like that, and then the motives are just sort of like, I've seen that before. It's so generic in the way of like scary movies now. So that's sort of one of the only criticisms we had for it.
In saying that though, we just came from the cinema. I might need to preface that too. We literally just saw a couple hours ago, and I think that you kind of need to digest this film because there is so much. It's so, I feel like, content heavy that you do need to think about majority of what they're trying to illustrate to. And there is a lot to digest. There's so many little niche things that they throw in. Attention to detail, character developments, like plot lines are going down. All of that comes into this film. It's just it's very hard to break it down. But other than that, I can't really say much bad about this film. I can, but I don't want to because it's very spoiler heavy if I do. There is, like I was saying, there's just too many things. There's too many things to tell you. And there's like not enough information for me to give you. And
there's also just way too many subliminals in this movie. I don't know what like sort of they're going for, but
I feel like I was at a rave. Back at schoolies or something.
I'm gonna have to watch like 2 hours of SpongeBob SquarePants or something to like clear my palate of demonicness that we just picked up from watching this movie. So
hey, Jesus blowing from Stupid Town.
Hey pal, you just blowing from Stupid Town?
So as always, we do ratings for these films. I'm going to give this a high 90. I want to give it 92%. I love this film. I suggest you go see it. It is one of the best psychological thrillers I think I've seen. And Nick Cage, anything he's in, I'm going to give a chance.
My rating for this movie as a thriller and as a movie that was scary and put me on the edge of my seat, definitely up in the high 90s. Is it a movie that I'd ever watch again? Never, because I feel like my soul has been fucking tainted after watching that movie or something. I don't know. I feel like I need to freaking have a shower in holy water or something right now after watching this movie.
It needs an exorcism.
It's not going to be for everyone, this movie, at all. Obviously, most scary movies aren't, but it was a different sort of take, especially the first like hour and a half of this movie. It's something we've rarely ever seen before, and you're gonna need like 3 or 4 hours in a nicely lit room with like comedy movies on to clear your palate of just horror of that is in your brain after watching this movie. That's all I can say, because
go watch Rush Hour for 4 hours and you'll be fine.
Yeah.
There are a lot of men chasing us.
Well, they should be. Listen, you have nothing to worry about, okay?
So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe.
Question of the day: what movie left you the most scarred or left you the most haunted?
Anyway, guys, hope you enjoyed. Peace. We out.
And cut.
And cut. Clap. Where's your clap?